Welcome to Ninerology. I'm your host, Alan, and the 49ers are coming out of their bye 4-4 and seemingly the healthiest they've been all season. You have Christian McCaffrey, who's looked good during practice without any pain or soreness, according to Adam Schefter and Kyle Shanahan. It looks to be on track to play this Sunday. You have Jawan Jennings, who looks to be back from his hip injury, and also a free agent addition of Khalil Davis, not to be confused with Kalia Davis, who's already on the 49ers. What does that mean, and what are the realistic expectations for the second half of the season? I mean, before we break down the schedule, the next 3 games are very important and crucial to a potential playoff berth for the 49ers, because the next 3 games are against NFC opponents that already have playoff aspirations from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Seattle Seahawks, and the Green Bay Packers. So this next 3-game stretch is going to tell us a lot about the 49ers and if they learned anything over the bye week. Because let's face it, 4-4 is not going to get the job done. 9-8 or 8-9 is not going to get you into the playoffs. Minimally, you need to be at 10-7 and hope that the rest of the NFC West kind of limps to the finish line. Because right now, nobody in the NFC West is looking like a superior or elite team. Yes, the Cardinals have overperformed, but they're only 5-4 as well. You have the Seahawks, you have the Rams that are all right around the same 500 mark. And so the 49ers need to have taken this bye week, examine themselves with their shortcomings, and honestly figured out a way how to get more creative in the red zone. But also, how do you get better on defense in the second half of games? Before we talk about those expectations, what are some of the biggest issues for the 49ers? Let's start on the offensive side. They move the ball really well between the 20s. But when they get into the red zone, it's like they've forgotten how to play football. They start trying to be too smart for themselves and just they stop running the ball, and they stop going to their playmakers. Like, where are the end arounds and sweeps to Deebo Samuel? Where is George Kittle in the red zone? So I think going back to the fundamentals and not trying to outsmart yourself, which can be hard because of how smart Kyle Shanahan is, just tends to overthink these things. I also think not having a preseason, because as you know, Kyle Shanahan did not call any plays during the preseason, and coaches need the preseason as well. And so this first quarter of the season, first half of the season, he's dealing with his preseason and ramping up. So I do think we're going to see better play calling from Kyle Shanahan, and that these first 8 weeks in this bye week is going to be beneficial to him as a play caller, not just as a head coach. The second thing that we notice is special teams. Disastrous. It's been disastrous for years for the 49ers. Have they addressed that during the bye week? The third thing is the second half defense. Nick Sorensen seems to start off well during the games, but then when the offense for the opponent adjusts during halftime, Nick Sorensen doesn't seem to have an answer for that adjustment. So how is he going to improve in that stretch? And then the run game. While the run defense has struggled and still is ranked pretty high in the top 10, the reality is teams are throwing a little bit more. Now, adding Khalil Davis, is that going to go ahead and address that interior? Because when you start playing teams like the Green Bay Packers, the Bills, you get to the Ravens in a potential Super Bowl rematch, you have the Detroit Lions, you have the Miami Dolphins. How are you going to do against those offensive lines? What are you going to do? And is that defensive front going to be enough to stop the opposing team's run game? Because if it can't, it's game over. If you cannot stop the run, and that's what a lot of these teams in the playoffs can do, is run the ball and move the ball at will, the line of scrimmage, then game's over. We saw some bigger moves last year. We're kind of hoping for a move for DeForest Buckner, but that didn't happen. So is this move going to be enough by getting Khalil Davis? All questions we don't know. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of our predictions. This Sunday, they have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are coming off a disappointing overtime loss to the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football. Now, this bodes well for the 49ers for a couple reasons. First reason is this was a Monday night game, and the 49ers are coming off a bye. So already the 49ers are going to have extra rest, even though they're traveling to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is running off of 6 days of rest. The 49ers are going to have 2 weeks. Even though, yes, they're traveling, they've had 2 weeks to get healthy. The second thing is that was an emotional loss for Tampa Bay that they should have won. So there might be a little bit of a hangover this Sunday when they play. against the 49ers. And then third, the 49ers have the momentum because of the players that they've gotten back. So this should be a win. This should get them above 500. Now, week 11 is interesting because this is against the Seattle Seahawks. It is in Santa Clara. It is a game that they should win, but will they win? Who knows? They lost to Arizona and the Rams, games that they should have won. And so this goes back to see, did they learn anything during the bye week? So my prediction is that they will win these next two games, Tampa Bay and Seattle, which will get them to 6-4. Then the Green Bay Packers, you travel to Lambeau Field to play Green Bay. Now, depending on how Jordan Love is, that could affect how this game is. Is he still injured? Is somebody else playing? We'll see. But right now, my prediction is Green Bay will actually get the victory here at home against the 49ers, which would drop the 49ers down to 6-5. Now, they then play Buffalo at Buffalo. So back-to-back traveling games. I count this as back-to-back losses for the 49ers, meaning that they'll be 6-6 after the Buffalo game. Then after that, you have a couple of home games. You have the Chicago Bears that are coming to town, and then the Rams after that for Thursday Night Football, which is only off a 4-day rest. I do see the 49ers beating the Chicago Bears and the Los Angeles Rams, even on the short day's rest, to kind of avenge for losing to the Rams in Levi South, a game that they should have won and put away. So I do see back-to-back victories, which would get them to 8-6. Then you have the Miami Dolphins that they should win, which would get them to 9-6. Detroit Lions, a Monday night game that could have major playoff implications. That happens on December 30th to New Year's Eve. And so I see them losing that game, bringing them down to 9-7. And then closing out against Arizona, which I think could potentially be for the division, whoever wins that game. I do see them winning that game and going into the playoffs at 10-7. 11-6, 10-7 is where I have them. Let's just kind of go through that list again just to make sure our math is correct. 4-4 right now coming out of the bye. Win against Tampa Bay, that'll put them at 5-4. Win against Seattle, that'll put them at 6-4. Lost to Green Bay, 6-5. Then lost to Buffalo, 6-6. A win in Chicago, 7-6. A win against the Rams, 8-6. A win against Miami, 9-6. A loss to Detroit, 9-7. And a win against Arizona, 10-7. So that's my prediction, 10-7 for the 49ers, which is not terrible considering they are 4-4 right now. But I do think 10-7 will be enough to win the division. And it'll come back down to that last game, which happens to be in Arizona, in a game that they're going to have to win on the road. Now, that's all based on that there's no surprises. We'll see what happens. We'll see if they've learned anything and if they can rely on their experience to get them over the hump. But that's my realistic expectations for the 49ers, to end up winning the division and getting that 3 or 4 seed, and Detroit ultimately getting that 1 seed. And we'll see what that looks like in the playoffs. Right now, the 49ers' biggest goal isn't the 1 seed. It's just to make it to the dance. Can we learn from our 4-4 start? Can we learn to close out games? And can we learn to score in the red zone? Can we make sure that our special teams doesn't lose us the game? And can we also ensure that we are finishing games when they're close? Those are some big key factors to how the 49ers are going to do the rest of the year. And hopefully they've learned those. Hopefully they've used the bye week to really amp up and get ready to go on a run. We know that that's kind of been their MO the past several years. Hopefully that continues. History tends to repeat itself, but they can't just rely on that. They got to put in the work, and hopefully that's what they've done. So my prediction, you can count it here, is 10-7 for the 49ers, ultimately winning the NFC West, coming in around the 3 or 4 seed. And we'll see what happens in the playoffs. And that's all we got. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.